And we're back after these very, very lovely commercial breaks. I am indeed um, coming back from a lunch break. As your professor, I spend most of my days helping students and attending meetings and teaching class. So I definitely had to take a quick break for a Snapple iced tea. Although I know that you don't want to hear you don't want to hear about my breaks. Let's get right on into it. Okay, the PowerPoint. What is this a PowerPoint on? Oh my goodness, this professor here, he has so much stuff going on. This is true. You're absolutely right about that. We have a few things that are going on, but some things that I want to highlight for you. Starting off, first and foremost, nickel and dimed. Many of you may have actually recognized this text here from the course schedule, or even, excuse me, not the course schedule, but the when you originally signed up for the class, and also to as listed on the books in the bookstore that's recommended for my class. You can actually go and purchase this book at pretty much any store or even our own bookstore. If you would prefer to have a paper copy, it's widely available. It's a very well-known text. It's called Nickel and Dime by Barbara Ehrenreich. But if you were like anything I was when I was in college, then money was a little bit tight, and you always appreciated something that was for free, or at least for $2.17. You always had that in your ashtray, or at least I did. I will give you a copy of this particular book here for free 99. That's right, folks, free 99. You have to pay absolutely nothing down, $0 down for this particular book. You can find it at the end of this particular module here in a free PDF copy. Give you a little background here. So this is a PowerPoint that provides you with an overview of the actual book itself. The author is Barbara Ehrenreich, and she wrote this book in 1999, but I believe that it was published around 2001 or so. And it actually it actually chronicles her journey, her exploration through America's not middle class, but rather America's forgotten class, the American working poor class, right? Now, this is actually a very unique group of Americans, not unique in terms of size, it's rather large in terms of size, but unique in terms of its experience, in terms of their experience, and exposure to some of the lesser known, some of uh, the kind of economic forces that are often go unseen, save for their effects. Now, when I say economic forces here, I'm being metaphorical, and it is important that we understand how to read in between the metaphors, and also to how to make those connections here. When I'm using the word or the phrase economic force, and you'll hear me use that or refer to some of these major themes as examples of the force, what I'm referring to is kind of similar to gravity. Right now, I want for you to point to gravity. Go. Got it? You point to it? You found it? All right. So, right, that thing that you're pointing to, right? Great. I'm glad that you actually pointed to it, right? And you can finally see where gravity is, right? Right? Or no? You can't point to gravity? Okay. Well, how do you know that it exists? If you can't point to it, then that means that it doesn't exist, right? No? Well, then how do we know that gravity exists? It's not quite merely a matter of semantics, folks. It's actually one way that we know that gravity exists, and this is precisely how scientists actually measure it, even in space, astronomers, right, so on and so forth. We know that gravity and even black holes, right? Nobody can see a black hole either. But we know that these things here actually exist based on the effects that they have around them, based on the effects that they have on the things, the objects that are surrounding them in their immediate vicinity. So take, for example, if you have a pen right now on your desk, I want you, or wherever you are near your laptop, I want you to pick that pen up, right? Don't hold it over your laptop, hold it over the couch or the desk or somewhere where it's out of the way where it won't do any damage. And then as you pick that pen up, I want for you to let it go, just like the song says. Let it go, right? Okay. What you just witnessed was an effect of gravity, and that's precisely how we know that gravity exists. If gravity did not exist, then that pin, when you let it go, would have actually stayed hovering right in the air. For that matter, we all would be floating, perhaps maybe out in space, if gravity did not exist. So, without getting too physical, without getting too metaphysical, I want to actually use that, make an argument by analogy to highlight and also to provide a little bit of gravitas, some examples, to what I meant earlier when I said an economic force, right? So we can't necessarily see economic forces in the same way that we can see our shoes or see our finger or point to the desk or feel the mouse that we're actually, or the trackpad that we're kind of maneuvering on right now, but they do actually exist. And one of the ways that we know that it exists is indeed based on the effects that it has on people's lives, right? In particular, oh no, what happened here? Okay, sorry. I hit next when I should have actually hit this arrow up here at the top. So as you're moving through this PowerPoint here, you want to either scroll down or just quite simply hit the arrow at the top of the page. So Nickel and Dime takes us on through Barbara's tour through the low-wage workforce in Key West, Florida, also too in Maine and also to Portland, Maine, and several other places throughout the Midwest and Mid-Atlantic, throughout the Midwest and the East Coast. So she's going on a tour through low-wage work, trying to see if indeed workers can actually make it survive on low-wage salaries or minimum wage salaries. What she finds out is quite simply no. They cannot actually survive, right, live on minimum wage salaries because they don't make enough. The minimum wage is not what they call, is not the same thing as a livable wage. In fact, what she discovers is that she's exposed to some of those hidden forces, those hidden economic forces that work to separate individuals from themselves and also from their families. These are economic forces like wage slavery, like the hidden costs of poverty, and also management by stress. Now, there are two main roles for the kinds of characters that we have in this particular book, this particular novel. And it's a nonfiction novel. The two main roles that you have, right, with the exception of the introduction where she's laying out her talk with Lewis Lapham, her editor, are employees and management, right? Now we'll see a kind of tension begin to rise throughout the entire story between these two figures, and Barbara Ehrenreich kind of takes on the role clandestinely as an employee, right? Having the experience and also the degrees to confer her the role of a manager. She actually opts to become a member of the working class to see what work and life, the struggles, and also even some of its kind of high points, right? Should there be any, right? I'll kind of leave that open-ended right there so that way you can continue on reading. She's looking to join on with the workers to see what life is like as a low-wage worker and to see if she can actually survive, if any of them can actually survive on minimum wage salaries. Larger context for this particular book here comes out of the 1996 Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act, or in other words, the Welfare Reform Act of 1996, signed into law under yours truly, your favorite president, Bill Clinton. I don't know if that's anybody's favorite president, but he's a very popular president historically. And whether you like him or do not like him is somewhat irrelevant. He signed it into law. And in this sense here, it didn't necessarily have the most positive effects for people who were actually a part of this low-wage workforce. So, what we see, kind of getting you through the Welfare Reform Act, this here is a short summary of what it is and how it transformed over time. Um, You'll see right here down at the bottom right this topic called welfare queens. Now, this is something that is not so much a part of the book directly. Barbara Ehrenreich does not use this phrase. However, this is a phrase and also to a figure that's very popular in terms of the national consciousness. A lot of people are aware of what welfare queens look like, how they behave, how they act, and also to even what race they are. They have certain perceptions that are shaped by images that they've seen throughout popular culture. All right, again, kind of touching back on some of these invisible, tangible, intangible forces that shape our perceptions. Right, welfare queens. Oftentimes, if you click right down here at this link, it'll take you to a YouTube video, which will give you an overview on welfare queens and also to the history of AFDC, which was the previous iteration of the Welfare Reform Act of 1996. This is a closed caption video, so if you click the captions, they'll pop right on. As we're moving from there, that video there kind of helps to provide us with an overview of how it is that management sees these workers that they're dealing with, and also too how the larger society actually sees these workers, these low-wage workers, and by extension how they treat them. Here's a brief history of the Personal Responsibility and Work Reconciliation Act of 1996, of which the perception, the image, the stereotype, as it were, of welfare queens was very crucial to gaining public support to end AFDC and to begin the Welfare Reform Act of 1996. So I want for you all to actually make those connections between the real world, or what's called, right, the larger context, right? And you all know what context is from the readings, or rather you will know what context is, right, from the readings. The larger conversation here that's being had, right, that surrounds the construction of a particular text. The text being the 1996 law, right, the act, Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act. So at the bottom of this particular PowerPoint here, this will outline you, outfit you, equip you with some of the major themes that you'll see circulating and rehashed throughout this book as you're reading. Wage slavery, the hidden cost of poverty, the dominant corporation, and management by surveillance. These are some of the major themes that course throughout this particular book that Barbara Ehrenreich is trying to navigate her way right on through. And as we begin now to move right on through the next page, we'll see the actual book in and of itself. It's the book itself ends at 120 pages. I would highly suggest that you all, between today and also to tomorrow and 6 days out all the way through next week, all the way through Sunday, I suggest that each of you kind of set yourself up on a schedule. Don't just come to this right at the end of the week and expect to actually get it done. And in case some of you may have actually done that, hint, hint, I'm not trying to bust anybody out. But if you find that you've done that, you might not want to do that here with this book, because the assignment is actually due this Sunday, and it's the Dialectical Journal. Now you're going to actually take and you're going to, let's get down to the table of content. You're going to take and write down notes for each chapter that you read. This book here is only 3 chapters. You're going to identify 5 key quotes from each chapter, one from each chapter. Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3. You don't need to worry about the intro nor the evaluation. You're going to actually write down those 5 quotes, and you're going to write critical responses of the kind that are detailed in the handout for the dialectical journals. So as you're reading, you want to highlight, take notes on, and write down your personal reflections, your critical reflections, where you're analyzing and identifying Barbara Ehrenreich's use of rhetorical appeals. The main thing that you want to identify, beginning with the introduction, is what her message is. And also, too, how she's using ethos, logos, and pathos, right, the rhetorical tools, to persuade readers of her message. All right. Now, lastly but not leastly, you have the dialectical journal assignment itself, and I'll talk about that right after these brief messages.